All right, we are recording. Good everyone, this is Gian here from Earthhaven with Tormod, also from Earthhaven. And Tormod is going to introduce himself today for our series of community living. And what does that mean? Hi Tormod, can you give us your name, your surname, where you're from, and so on?
Yeah, my name is Tormod Vidsten Yadrem. I live in Norway, southwest Norway, and I have been living in this eco village for the last soon 4 years, almost 4 years now. I've been living here, and yeah, it's a type of Camphill village that I found back in 2010 or 11, I think I discovered it with some friends of mine. We were driving past here and we visited, and it's been in the back of my mind since then, that this awareness that this place exists. Now, I have had a history with schizophrenia, and for me, finding out something of belonging, something to do, something to learn, to express and to live and to create, have been a long and troublesome journey, basically. But after about 10 years plus in and out of hospital, and with the rock and roll life in the in the city of Stavanger, Norway, I found out in the end, when I was basically crash landing in Amsterdam and Copenhagen, that I found out, okay, I have to change my way of living, basically. I have to change my life, or else I will not be here. So back then, 2011, I started my process with walking with self-forgiveness process, investigating myself, learning who I am, where I come from, understanding my mind, learning to take charge of my mind, learning to direct my mind, and yeah, just starting a process of learning myself to know. And then some years later into this walking and process, I then moved to this Camphill village in a couple of hours north of where I grew up. Yeah.
Awesome, Tormod. So Tormod, you have schizophrenia, I'm just clarifying here, and you say that you were partying, you were living sex, drugs, and alcohol,
yeah.
And you know that you had to change your life, and you saw this eco village, this Camphill village, as a way to change your life, to take a different route in life. That's correct?
Well, basically, I saw the self-forgiveness process first. I found that first. Walking the destiny process.
And then through that process, you, with the self-forgiveness, with destiny, you found you can direct yourself to solutions.
Exactly. I found more purpose, more meaning, more intent, more value to who I am, what I stand for, what I can be, and so on. So therefore, I've started to look around, instead of living in a sort of a community home without any, just a home for people who are on disability, basically, official one that was very, what shall I say, not very supportive in a creative and a living fully way. So I wanted something more to explore, to develop myself, to learn, to create and build and work with nature. So I found this Camphill village, and I started to visit after some weekends and some weeks. I then decided to move here. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So Tormod, can I ask a few questions about your community and where you live?
Absolutely.
All right, so let me look at my questions.
Yeah.
You've already covered where is your community. You have already covered how did you get to the community. You've already covered how long have you been in the community. And now I want to know how many people stays in this community with you.
Yeah, this is a Camphill community, and Camphill community is like We are 25 people. 25 people live here now, and we have 4 big houses. 2 of them are we use now, and I live in one big house together with about 9 others in this house. I have my own apartment here. I have a small kitchen area. I have my own bathroom, shower, and you know, we have animals. We have cows. We have sheep. We have some pigs now. We have some chickens and some goats and cats and many cats and a dog. And this, of course, yeah. Go on.
Can I ask on that topic? Do you take care of your house by yourself, like cleaning, dishes, all of those things, laundry?
We have a very structured and organized way of living. Meaning that there is a couple in this house, a couple who are a man and a woman and a man, who are the leaders of this house. They are they are in charge, responsibility for this house. That things are being done, that dishes are done, that dinners is served, that stairs are washed, that things are being done and taken care of. And I have my chores in that. For instance, today I was baking bread, very tasty sourdough bread, I might add. And today I also washed some stairs, vacuumed, and did some other stuff. Helped with, lots of different small work around the house, then outside the house needs to be done. I want to say something about Camphill, if I may, about the Camphill.
Yeah.
Camphill.
The camp is about your community in general.
Yeah, here it says Hogganvik Camphill. This is this village.
I see.
And but there are about, I can't remember how many, but there are Camphill villages in Norway. There is 6 villages in Norway.
Wow.
And and there are villages in most of Europe, Western Europe. There are in North America. I'm not sure if there are in South America yet. Maybe there are some friends and some cooperatives. There are in Russia, in India, in Vietnam, and some even in South Africa. And this started about in 1939, 1940, just before Hitler was going with his troops into Austria to take Austria. There was then this pediatrician called Karl Koenig, a child doctor called Karl Koenig, and he had responsibility for a group of children who had disabilities. And he saw Hitler coming, and he saw Hitler's intentions about the pure race and all that, and he feared for his children's life. So he took the children with him and traveled to Scotland, where they were at the time safe, and they would remain safe there, basically. So it started when this pediatrician Karl Koenig and this group of people came to Scotland and settled in a house that was called Camphill House from before that. So and then that started the Camphill movement, also very much after the war had ended. Karl Koenig is very connected to anthroposophy and Rudolf Steiner thinking and anthroposophic mannerism. Many people look at Camphill and they see some of it, and very much of it. Many people say it's like communism with a spiritual touch of Western European thinking, modern thinking. So the criteria for me to live in a Camphill village like this in Norway, from 1940, when it started in Camphill in Scotland, the intent was to give a home and a place to live for people who are more or less rejected by society. People who doesn't fit into the big society, the normal machinery, basically. So that is the intent of Camphill, to give a good quality life for people with schizophrenia, for instance, and similar.
You can say the outcasts.
Yeah, outcasts. Yeah. So yeah, and then there are us that are outcasts that live here, and then there are also people who come to live with beside us that have a more of a responsibility, you might say, more of a directing stand. Yeah, and that's the basic of Camphill. Basically, it's
so this Camphill community eco-village system has been around for 80 years.
Yeah.
And as we can see, it took quite a lot of time to reach so many places in the world and to stand as that specific value and principle that it functions within, to support outcasts, to protect and give a place of safety, a home for people with, for example, schizophrenia.
Exactly, and because, you know, and my parents didn't know about this before after I found it, and very many people still don't know about Camphill, because it is seen as different, because of the Rudolf Steiner thinking, the anthroposophic thinking, is sort of a slightly different to the normal code, if you like. Yeah.
But it works for you.
Yeah, for me it works very fine. You know, I have my income of disability income in Norway, which is.
Wait, Tormod.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. Let me just put the question in.
Good.
How does finances work? How do you support yourself? Does the community have income, or does it have a business? Do you participate in any work that brings the income? Like, give us a nice overview of how does this village, eco-village, exist and make it possible to exist and to support people such as yourself.
I don't have the exact numbers, like details, but I know that, you know, I have a disability check on about 18,000 kroners each month, which is almost $2,000 each month.
Okay.
From this, I give about half of that to the community here. I give 9,000 kroners to this community, and then I get back housing, almost all the food, and electricity, internet, washing, soap, very much included in that price tag. So I give that, and also we are quite heavily funded by the government because of our social structure, but also from how we choose to live ecological, and we also very much, what shall I say, caretakers of tradition and the seasons and agriculture and what shall I say, spirituality, religion, like Christianity. We do like in the Christmas, we do a theater play, for instance. We do that usually several times a year, for Easter play, for Midsummer Night play. We have these theaters. That is fun, and we sing a lot, and we have these and so the funding is mostly it's from government funding, I would say, but also the farm gives us some income. Like we sell our own cheese that is certified cheese to sell in Norway, and so on. And
I remember you brought some cheese to the farm in South Africa, the community in South Africa, from your eco village.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty delicious.
Yeah, the cheese is quite famous. It's a quality cheese. I like it a lot. So, but I think the most income that we have for the village is for us who are on disability check. The money we give in each month, and then there is the funding over the government budget for this type of structured living. So that,
I mean,
yeah.
I've seen you share on Facebook amazing pictures of the environment you live in and the work you do, working out in nature, working with the animals, meeting the goats, and also how you're working with wood, how you work with cutting grass. And I must say, for someone that has lived on a community for 11 years and having any mental instability, not with a disability or anything like that. I don't have schizophrenia or bipolar or ADHD. I don't have any of that. But just for a normal person that doesn't have those problems, I can see how physical work and nature supports tremendously with any emotional instability we have within ourselves. So I could definitely see how, for example, you on disability and getting that income and investing it into yourself, into this community, and what it's providing for you as a support structure is really amazing.
It truly is. And you know, this village has been around with this structure since the early 70s.
Yeah.
And it's quite humbling to know what those first people went through to have it their way, basically, here in this village, to make this Hogganvik village. And yeah, those were pioneers of that time, of their creation. And today, you know, we have all sorts of animals. We have bees even, and we are very close to the sea. We are very close to the sea, and I used to go bath all year round. And that is one of the best things I find about living here, is I can go take a swim in the fjord almost whenever I feel like it. And it's, you know, work is adjusted. I like the work. To work with a wheelbarrow or the spade in the dirt, to work physically, to work up a sweat. I truly enjoy that work. Of course, to learn to lift, try to lift with your thighs, not with your back, and so on. These things that we should know from before. But and walking, and we have lots of nature, wild nature around us. I walk in the forest and manage to ground when my systems of mind become taking over. I walk in the forest and I'm able to ground myself in my physical, breathe and relax and find solutions. So yeah, it's quite it's very much I mean, I couldn't find anywhere in Norway where I could have such a good quality life with work, with the ocean, the forest, the bees, the goats, the people, the sun, you know, almost all.
And I mean that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing with the current system, is it kind of removes most people from nature. If you just look at how it's designed and its structures, we're quite far removed when we live in the suburbs from actual nature, experiencing that stability. So that is something that we definitely want to give people as an eco village, for example, where you are, where people can come to, they can visit. So that's to my next question. Can friends and family visit you, and how does that work?
Yeah, friends and family can visit. Right now we have a lockdown still, so it's not allowed, but normally when this hopefully lifts soon, friends and family can visit. We have free rooms where they can stay, and you know, there are people coming here from mostly from Germany and Russia and other places. They come here to work. People who are 19, 20, 21, 22, who wants some practical experience with social and farm work, social/farm work, and they come here and they spend a year or 2 or 3 here in the village, and they work with us side by side, and they share responsibility, and we share laughs and language differences and all that stuff.
Do they have to pay?
Hmm?
Do they have to pay to come and work there? These people from overseas or from
No, they
Russia?
are paid. They are given pay. They're given salary.
Right. So it's the other way around.
Yeah.
But that's easier to do if you have government funding.
Yeah. Like I say, I don't know the math of that, but of course that would be easier with government funding, and also the
But
people
the
who
point I
are.
want to make is,
Yeah.
point I want to make is for any eco village or community living or whatever you want to call it, community livings.
Yeah.
The most important point is funding, because then things can happen. People can come, people can grow, people can expand. If funding is sorted, then most of your problems are sorted.
True. Very true. And it's it's again we can say it, these are interesting times. Like we said in 2007, 2008, when there was a financial crisis, and what happened? The people who owned banks got bailed out and got richer, and all of us else had to pay for that.
Yep.
So the question is, will that happen again now with the lockdown and businesses closing, etc., etc.? Or will we stand up, not in a revolutionary way, but will we stand up for dignity, for responsibility, for life? So that's interesting to see how far we can stand basically in our own beings and be.
So on that topic, Tormod, on that
Yeah.
topic, how is your country, Norway? Am I correct? Norway, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I get confused with all the European countries a little bit. But how are you guys handling the coronavirus pandemic, and how are people responding to it? What is the news floating around there?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we had a massive shutdown since 12th of March, and yeah, from my experience now, I would say that Sweden did it the smart way, because there is so much suffering and irritation and tears and bother because of this shutdown. So that a value of a life, basically, of how much we should value people who are past 80 years with diabetes, with a history of cancer or something like that, and being able to see our families, be able to hug, be able to visit each other and work. And so, but of course, we don't know what the government know, and they have their information channels, their knowledge and their information, and they do their stuff based on what they believe is correct. And
I would on this pandemic, but yeah, I mean, we all are under quarantines, we all have restrictions, we all have certain rules and laws we have to follow, and you can go to jail now, you can get fines. At some point,
yeah.
I would say that they have to either come out with the truth, or they have to start allowing people to go out, and then we find out the truth. So either way, I think that there's going to be a truth bomb for a lot of people and the world to come. Not yet.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So, after Bush went into Iraq, because there was weapons of mass destruction, which seems that there were no weapons of mass destruction,
Yeah.
which has not been professed and been told by practically anybody who can speak. And so it's yeah, but these things take time, obviously. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, man, it's happened so many times that the truth comes out. But it's like 9/11. I think most people now know that that was an inside job, and yet nothing changed. For the betterment of mankind, even if people know the truth. So that's why it's very important that we must bring the truth back home, and we must look at, okay, what can we do? How can we correct this? Can we do it through voting, through politics, through establishing our own economic and political powerhouses? And this is how we have to take it back home and be like, okay, how can we unite, mobilizes people to find solutions together. Because yes, the truth might come out, the truth might be exposed, but there's 7.7 billion people on Earth, and as long as you don't reach all of them, there's no real action you can take on a global scale to stop this. And that's what we have to reach in the end. Otherwise, we're just informing people and informing our close families and close friends and colleagues, and we think that's the world, but that's part of the illusion that they create, that the internet is the world. Most people don't check their Facebook pages every day with all the news, and they don't participate. They just scroll by like it's nothing. So we have to consider how the masses are taking this and responding to this, because that's where they have their power still, which is with the masses.
I think there are people who feel disempowered and hopeless and they ignore these things, this truth, because they see that they have that same evilness within themselves lurking in the back of their minds. And I know that's how we are. We humans are programmed as adults to think negative about another, to be competing, compared to be at war against each other, and to have a secret, whatever type of thoughts chattering about abuse in our minds. And so I think that people who ignore these messages of Iraq 2001 or whatever, 9/11 or anything of opinion or theory or belief or matter, they ignore this because they don't want to touch it, because they fear it, because they fear themselves within it, I guess.
Yeah, it's like they fear if they expose something outside of themselves, like the government, then the government's going to expose them. Because everyone has secrets, and everyone has emails, everyone has a browsing history, everyone has a purchasing history, everyone has a police record. You know, everyone has secrets, and everyone has things that the government can easily use against you. And that's what people fear, is that if they expose corruption, then they know people's going to start looking to them for their corruption. If they expose domestic abuse in someone else is going to look to them. Where's your domestic abuse? You know, so it's like you have to make sure you're clear, that you are here clear, so that when you do expose things, you don't fear anything coming back at you. Because I can see how millions of people, billions of people in the world is dishonest. And when you see something dishonest happening outside of you, you're not going to expose it because you fear your dishonesty now being exposed.
I know, and it's like that when you try to talk, when you end up in a debate or in a quarrel with somebody, like in ordinary life, and this little irritation bubble or anxiety or fear or anger within you takes totally overcharge within your guts, and you're unable to speak, and you just have to walk away or talk in reaction or go into reaction, anger. So it's all who we are in the simple, seemingly simple daily matters. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I get to practice this every day with all sorts of different people here in the village alone, and it's very humbling and deepening to me to just make mistakes. I have to apologize mostly to myself for stepping into that separation of me, of physicality, into mind systems, and then into nonsense and programs and lies, basically. Yeah.
That's also one thing that's really cool about living in a community, is you see your direct effect quite instantly, versus if you do it to family members, who you are, what you say, or how you do things, you know, they go back home, so you don't get to see the consequences playing out immediately, maybe later. But if you live in a community and you know your neighbor is right there and they're working with you in the field, they're doing things with you, and you react or you say something, or they react and they say something, you know, you have to work with that very soon, and you can actually see how it affects everything else. So that's one thing that I like about community living, and taking it back to ourselves and our process to actually check more directly, more instantly, if you want to say it that way or look at it that way. And that's what I like about community living, and how we can use that to amplify and quantify our own individual processes, and the points we have to walk with ourselves as other people.
I 100% agree with you, and yeah, it is within another. I can see myself basically, and learn to appreciate, because I'm never going to find anybody else more difficult to handle than me, and yeah, it's there was something I was going to say now. It slipped my mind. It disappeared. It went into.
It'll probably come back.
Yeah.
Was it in relation to community living?
Yeah, and
process.
Yeah, basically how yeah, we have this one life. That's what I'm going to say. We have this one life now on Earth with a lot more awareness than 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. We know a lot more, even though we don't want to accept that knowledge or take it in or digest it. We are much more aware today of our minds, of the systems, of the universe, basically, and we have this one life to do the best we can, and then I mean the best we can, not just give something money for charity, because that's not going to help practically anything. Giving money to charity a month, you know, in the UNICEF or the Red Cross, something like that, it doesn't change much at all, really. We have to be and live the change within ourselves. I'm going to try to avoid that light there, because so we have to be the change ourselves, because, and that's what I find so humbling, because I know that it can be done, and that's why, you know, I can read the Bible, I can read blogs or history or religion or philosophy, and the outlining is crystal clear. This is supposed to be a good place for all, just like Jesus or anybody, prophets who lived after or before him, have told us crystal clear that, you know, this must be a good place for all, and we must work with equalizing to our mind. And it's very simple. Yeah, go on.
Heaven and hell, as people portray it through the Bible and in their minds and teachings, but I'm just using those two words to give two opposites, two polarities. Heaven and hell is right here. It's not going anywhere. It's what are we accepting and allowing every single day as a collective and as individuals. Are we creating heaven on earth or hell on earth? And currently we're obviously stuck in hell, and we have to find our way by ourselves individually to first step into heaven, and then to step as that living example into life for all to see. And that will be taking on politics, taking on economics, taking on all the lies, the deception, and to expose it so that we can pop this bubble of hell and show everyone heaven is right underneath their feet, the earth, which is abundantly here for everyone. And we just have to find, or not even find, we have to step into the natural systems that is here, that provides for all equally, like the sun, like the air we breathe, like the water we drink. It's all here. We just have to step into that abundance concerning all life.
Just like nature gives abundance equally to all, we must face our man in the mirror and forgive that man in the mirror, and forgive that person for all the nitty-gritty thinking, doing, saying, being, all that stuff that has been violating life, basically, in any sense. And that is also a forgiving. I must be unconditional in my forgiving of myself. I must be unconditional in taking out the demons, the systems, the structure, the beliefs, the polarities, everything within me, and take it out, see it, forgive it, and let it go. And then live that change that I find in living words, in my mannerism, in my nature, and so on. So yeah, it's yeah.
The self-forgiveness process and the writing process is very, very important, because obviously, as we all know, I hope so, as within, so without. So, you know, the outer world is a reflection of ourselves. It is not anything different. It's not anything separate. It's literally us, and us creating it and manifesting it based on who we believe we are. So we have to change those beliefs, we have to change those ideas and opinions, and there's a whole memory bank of history of how we define and value ourselves based on our experiences, based on where we were born and how we were born and the family we were born into. There's so much control systems within this world placed to trap us within inside ourselves, and we have to take that step to say, I am responsible for me. I can direct everything within me. I am not powerless. And that's where that self-forgiveness comes from, taking self-responsibility and saying, I am here, I am God.
Yes, that's yes, that's the basic line. That's the, yeah. I mean, there's no other way, because what we live within ourselves, in our physical or in our minds, we express onto the outer. And if we ever live in emotions or trauma or drama from our past, if we have our drama or trauma from our past, that is what will direct us. That is what will direct our living, because trauma and drama is like markers within us that mark us and that make out our living. And this trauma and drama in our minds, in our bodies, they then make our living.
Tormod, you look like a light worker now.
Yeah, I'm a light worker now. Yeah. Yeah. I can't fix this light. It's impossible. Sorry about the light. Excuse the light.
All right, so Tormod, I'm going to ask a few more questions because we are already 45 minutes into this recording.
Yeah.
And these ones are simple yes or no, just for people who's here to hear about community living. And I'm going to ask, are drugs and alcohol permitted on your premises, your community?
No.
No.
I mean,
all right.
I'm allowed to take my medication. I have medication, but
okay, but you have prescriptions for that.
Yeah, prescriptions for that, and I have alcohol-free beer.
All right, and is there prescription weed permitted?
No, there is nothing like that, and it's very clear that nobody's allowed to drink here, and because then we have so much more problems and issues and trouble, basically. Yeah.
Because people get mind possessed when they're drunk, and because you live in a small community, it's easier to take it out on each other and to become weird and different. Okay, next question. Are you allowed to have a relationship with someone on the property, someone who lives in the community with you, or if you have a partner outside the community, can they live with you?
Yeah, I mean, for anybody living here, there are no restrictions on that stuff. We are allowed to be whatever we want. We're allowed to be partners and all that. Yeah.
And what is your food like? Does every person have their own diet, or is there a community meal time, or how does your dinners and your breakfast and your food times work with everyone there?
There are definitely community meal times that are very, what shall I say, important for the structure of the village and of the houses. Like I said, there are now 2 houses out of 4 houses that are being used. Okay. And in these 2 houses, 2 big houses, we have breakfast, dinner, and supper, 3 meals. And then there is a coffee break also between breakfast and dinner. But the breakfast we meet and we sing, and at dinner we meet and we sing, and at supper we meet and we sing, and we read from the Bible, and we eat. And almost all food that we have here is ecological, and most or some of it also biodynamic. If that picks your brain, I would suggest checking out what is biodynamic farming. It's really interesting.
So So when you have breakfast, everyone eats the same.
Yeah, but if people have like allergies or requests, we can make changes to give them what they need or want. Yeah, but we usually, like for breakfast, we have cereal with yogurt. Basically, that's what we have. But if people rather would like or really need something else, that's okay.
And for dinner, the same.
For dinner, we have all sorts of food: pasta, meat, fish. We seldom have birds because we.
All on the same table at the same time.
No, we have in two houses. We have different. One house and we have the same meal for everybody in the house. Yeah, the same meal for all. But again, if we have requests, if you are vegetarian, or if you have some interest or some requests, we can adjust to that. But basically, we make one meal for dinner in each house. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Tormod, my last question.
Okay.
Do you experience conflict on the communities, and how do you handle it?
I have to say yes. There are sometimes conflict, and I can only speak for me. Further than there are other people who also have perhaps a tough day or hard times. But for me, what I'm learning is to say to the person, if I'm going into a conflict, it's a building up, and it's like sentences and all that. And I say, look, I'm in reaction. I can't talk right now. Can we come back to this and later point? And I start to flag that basically when I am in discussions that I get heated, because that happens in the stressful kitchen environment and all that. So what I do is that I say that, can we please come back to this issue later on? I need to breathe, I need to forgive and calm myself down. So that's how I solve it mostly, except for more going into my mind and to analyze more deeply what is my issues here with forgiveness of myself.
So there's no community intervention.
What do you mean?
Like, let's say there's conflict between you and someone, as an example. Then you can go to the community and say, okay, let's all come together, let's sit together. And then you and the person who had conflict, you sit with everyone listening, everyone being present, and you guys resolve the conflict between each other while everyone else is keeping it stable with their own input, showing each other, okay, here you have to slow down, here you have to breathe. No, there you're justifying, no, that's your reaction. And then to bring it to a common sense base for all resolution. You don't have a setting like that. It's just you and that person have to sort it out.
That's an interesting idea and concept. Mostly, I would say that might work here, but there are people here, what shall I say, who have a view of life and existence that is more out there. And that if they should make their opinion about, that should count about somebody. I mean, there are hardly any such deep conflicts. There are some people who have a tougher time with adjusting to the rhythm and requests, to put it that way. And for me, it's quite, I feel a bit bad for them, and I try to cheer them up and back them up, because what I don't like it to be a hierarchy structure. I want it to be a circle, a holistical structure. Yeah. And yeah, so basically, we have meetings. We have a community home. We have a community hall. A hall for spiritual gatherings, for song, and for meeting also. Also like Hogganvik meeting, where we debate anything that is on our minds, basically, from whatever we are taken by. And there we can, I guess, discuss those things. But there are also groups of people who are more like a psychologist service for the whole unit. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is my list of questions. If there's anything you want to add extra that you want to mention, then this is the floor for you. If not, let me know. and then we can say goodbye and ask everyone to subscribe, like, share the video, and follow the links below. If you have any links you want me to put in Tormod, send it to me.
Okay. Check out Earth Haven.
Yeah, that's what people have to check out. So you're all good?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tormod, for the chat. It was amazing to hear you, hear your stories, and to just talk about some subjects in the world. And I'm looking forward to our next hangout. We will arrange it in time as we see time goes by. Thank you very much. Take care and have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.